And my midwife, who, by the way, was the same midwife as Nancy Cartwright, who's the voice of Bart Simpson. The voice of Bart Simpson. Now, I did her makeup because I freelanced as a makeup artist while being an actress, and I got to do her makeup. And we became friends, and it turned out she had done both of her children at home, naturally. My first date with Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, was going to her home and watching her childbirth.
Welcome back to the Sensible Mama podcast. I am Paulina Westcott, your host. Very excited to be with you today. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and please share it with a mama that you think might enjoy it. My guest today is Denice Duff. She is a mom. She is an actress. She is an author, and she's the founder of In Your Face Skincare, a skincare line that I use and love. And I'm super excited for our conversation today. We had a phone call, and it was just, we should have made that phone call a podcast because it was such a beautiful conversation. So we're going to try to recreate some of it and then just see where this takes us today. I'm very excited. Welcome, Denice. Happy to have you.
I'm so happy. You know, the fact that I'm also an actress, I'm very good at recreating and remembering the good stuff. So I remembered our phone call very well, and it was so rewarding to speak to someone because, you know, I'm not a professional doula. I am, what did you call me? The
accidental doula.
Yes. And, you know, a good half a dozen for sure, friends that I have assisted their births, whether it was at their house or in a hospital, because of how I gave birth to my own daughter. And it's not a conversation you have very often. And it is the most poetic, beautiful story. And so anyone that will listen, I melt being able to talk about this, because when you think of a life, to know that a life starts in such a beautiful manner, it's all poetry to me.
I can't agree more. It's why I'm in love with this line of work. I didn't mean to become a doula. It also kind of happened. My story is very different from yours, but also kind of I stumbled into it.
Yeah.
And with the first birth, I was in love. I was obsessed. I was like, how do I multiply myself so I could attend every mama's birth across the United States and further? And I know I can't physically do that, so this is my way of reaching beyond, you know, the limits of my physical ability to be present in the room with mamas.
And hey, I want to just say too, if obviously anyone who is listening to this has an interest in either being a doula or having a natural childbirth or a home birth, and I just want to say, like, when you're going toward that direction, and sometimes I've been with moms where something had to change and they had to go to a hospital and they had to have a little bit of science intervene, right? A little bit of, you know, modern technology. The end result is always beautiful. At the end of the day, the end result is your child. And I don't want any mom to ever berate themselves for maybe not being able to have the most perfect childbirth. It's very unique, you know? But the more data that you get and the more stories you hear, like that's what I did. I listened to tons of stories and I'm like, oh, I liked how she did that. And oh, she was in my age range. And oh, you can kind of formulate based on everything from their ethnic background to where the city they live in to how old they are. Like I kind of crafted what my ideal situation would be like, right? This person did it with just their husband. This person did it in a bath. This person had a whole bunch of friends, you know? So it's going to be different no matter what, but at the end of the day, having a healthy baby is all we're going for, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would add having a healthy baby and not feeling traumatized by your birth. I consider that to be as important, maybe like just under healthy baby. You know what I mean? Like just a smidge. Because so many people, and the crazy thing is, the type of birth you have does not define whether or not you experienced a traumatic birth. Right. It's the sense of control, the sense of it happening by you versus to you. You know? Oh my
gosh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's jump right in.
I was 28 years old, and when I was pregnant, still married. I am now 60 years old. Oh my gosh. And so I'd been married for almost 5 years, and I always knew that I wanted to have a home birth or out in the fields. Grew up in Los Angeles. I was born in Long Island, New York Italian family, divorced, and just was raised by my hippie chick mom in the 70s and 80s. And we were raised with like no drugs, no alcohol, and just very healthy. Like sugar was, like kind of the Antichrist, like sugar, no. And but we needed an antibiotic. She'd get us an antibiotic, right? We were still in the modern way of living, but the idea, and she she wasn't happy with either of her births. It was in the 60s. She was sort of pinned down, and she was like, I want to do it naturally. And she remembered laying there on a cold metal table and left by herself. And the doctor, they left her and they were like, oh, you don't want drugs? All right. And it was a little bit of the attitude, right? I think that's worse than any drug I think they could give her, is the way they treated her, like what you said in the beginning. And they just left her alone. And, and of course my dad was too nervous to be there, and hence a divorce later. But finally, after an hour and a half of her sort of moaning and screaming, a doctor or a nurse came in and said, so have you suffered enough? Oh, and it was that attitude, right? Wow. And then when I came around, the second baby's usually faster, and I was crowning while she was in the car on the way to the hospital. And I practically came out before. So I didn't have any drugs, really, just because it happened so fast, And anyway, so when she would tell me those stories, I just was like, oh, I want to, like, it was almost a gift to my mother that I wanted to give birth to her grandbaby the way she always wanted to have it. And so I had that family support, which was cool. And but I didn't have a lot of, and this was 30 years ago, but it was in Los Angeles. People are still very forward, natural thinking. And I would let people know that, look, I've got hospitals all over around me. Mm-hmm. It's in Los Angeles. If anything happens, from what I know is you have time to drive 10 minutes somewhere, And I would have people give me all sorts of, this could happen, this could happen. And I'm like, that's great. My blood sugar is good, or I'm not anemic, or that we've checked the baby's not breech, or I'm not having twins. Like I learned how to navigate everybody's questions. I got a lot of questions because I would tell people, I was so excited to tell them I'm going to do a home birth. Maybe if you're not ready to have that kind of attack, you don't tell anybody.
Agreed. Yes.
And that's definitely a piece of advice, because even the most helpful people are going to dig down deep for some piece of dirt to give you. So you just have to really be so strong and firm and educated, right? And but I just kept having other things to reassure them. And one day, some guy on the phone, a photographer that I had just done some work with before I was pregnant for a film, everything I told him, he had another horrible thing to say to me. And all of a sudden, this phrase came out of my mouth that just shut him up. And I said to him, Glenn, I understand. And if my baby dies, I'm just going to go back to bed with my husband, and I'm going to make another baby. And I promise you, I won't blame you. And he just shut up. And the thing was, I had to address everything that he was nervous of. First of all, people want to feel like they've helped you, right? Like, I warned you. Good. So I let him know I won't blame him. They want you to know a catastrophe could happen. So I had to let him know. I had to say the big D word, right? And I had to let him know that it's not, you can create again, right? If you created once, you could create again. And it was horrible that I had to just let him know, oh, I've looked at all of the things and I'm still ready to go do this.
Yeah.
And that shut him up. And I only had to use that phrase one other time for the remaining 2 months of my pregnancy, with two other people. And of course they backpedal. They're like, well, no, I'm sorry. I mean, and I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded to cast what my day would be like. And I had so many friends who wanted to be a part of this special magical journey. And my midwife, who, by the way, was the same midwife as Nancy Cartwright, who's the voice of Bart Simpson. The voice of Bart Simpson. Now, I did her makeup because I freelanced as a makeup artist while being an actress, and I got to do her makeup. And we became friends, and it turned out she had done both of her children at home, naturally. She gave me, she let me, my first date with Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, was going to her home and watching her childbirth.
That's amazing.
And I got to watch her midwife in action. I got to see her midwife remove an umbilical cord that was around the baby, right, by manipulating. I got to see her manipulate a breech baby, like in between each contraction, move that baby around, right? So I got to see two, fairly could be very nerve-wracking medical situations in the living room of Nancy's house. And I thought, all right, so there's, beside just getting in a car and going to the doctors, to know that this woman was equipped with if some flukes happen that you didn't predict, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's funny, she laughs because she goes, I put plastic all over the place, like you'd think it was a scene from Dexter, although Dexter wasn't out back then. She was some other film. And, but meanwhile, none of that happens, but you sort of don't know, even though the midwife is like, that's a little overkill, So Nancy Cartwright attended my birth, and so did obviously her midwife. I met with her. And I wound up having 16 friends in my bedroom. And the midwife said, look, that's fine, but they all should have a job, right? They all should have something that makes them feel like they're a part of this team, because you're a team, right? And we were a very quiet, loving team. Some of them, might have just been making snacks for the others that were in the room, right? At one point, I didn't like my razor stubble on my legs. And in between contractions, they had a bowl of water and 2 razors, and they shaved my legs in between contractions.
Oh.
My armpits were smelly, and I'm like, guys, I have all of and so in between contractions, they washed my armpits.
My goodness.
I got a little nauseous at one point. And one person held my hair back as I laid down, and I just did a little, in a little thing. And we were just this beautiful team. And during every contraction, I had 12 people massaging my body, whether it was a nice, sometimes I wanted a wipe, just wipe me down. Sometimes it was just squeeze my foot to put my attention on my foot and not my lower back, right?
Yeah.
Nancy put a cold compress on the back of my head. My husband was by my face holding my hand. It was different. Someone was rubbing on the side of my thigh, and that just, it was things to counteract that sort of period cramp sensation that each contraction felt like. And then after that minute or 2 minute, it would subside. And then I'd open my eyes and I'm like, okay, guys, I love you again. And we'd sort of chat, or, I had the cat was in the room too. That might be controversial, but I had a cat, 2 of them on the bed, mostly one. And the midwife actually sat on the floor. We videotaped this, and the midwife kind of sat on the floor because she said, your team is doing such a beautiful job. And she had the heartbeat monitor, and she would go in and check the heartbeat, and you could hear it, the little sonogram portable thing. She would go in and check dilation, and it just, I would sip on water or sip on a little ice, and the course of events was that 4 a.m, I was awoken to peeing in my bed, and I was 8 days early, so I didn't expect anything, and I thought I peed in my bed, and I was kind of a late bedwetter. I think I wet the bed till I was like 14, so I thought, oh my God, I'm 28. Has this all come back? So I smelt the bed, and it didn't smell like pee. So I just went back to bed until 6 because I thought it was too early to call the midwife. So I called her at 6, and she said, "You're most likely your water broke. Are you?" And I said, "Yeah, because I'm still sort of dripping." She said, "All right, just relax, and call me when you start to feel something. Do you feel any sort of contraction?" I'm like, "No, I don't know what a contraction feels like, but I don't feel anything." So I went back to bed till 9, and then got up, and I called her, and she said, "Why don't you try walking around? We just want to get that going, because once the water's broke, it's a good idea to get things going."
Yeah.
So I called a girlfriend over. We did some facials, and then we walked down to my neighborhood. I had a very cute neighborhood in Studio City, Los Angeles. And I remembered going into one of the little stores that sold candles and little sweet clothing and tchotchkes. And I bought a little candle. And they said, "Oh, wow, when are you due?" I said, "Well, my water broke this morning, so it should be, sometime tonight." And they're like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "It's fine." And on that walk, I started to feel what felt like a period cramp. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's what that is." So my friend went, "Okay, 11, it was like 11:45. So she wrote that down. And then at like 12:20, I'm feeling that again. It's okay, 12:20. So we started keeping track. And then at like 3 o'clock, they were maybe 6-7 minutes apart, right? Now I've got friends coming over, and the midwife said, "I'll probably come over when you can't make the phone call." Mm-hmm. I was like, all right. And so by about 7 o'clock at night, I'm now like laying in bed, from like 5 to 7, it was just more comfortable to have them massage me, and I sort of would rock. I was kind of a rocker in between the contractions. And I had only gained 17 pounds, and my daughter was almost 8 pounds of that. So when you see the video, you see the contraction, you see my stomach around this head. Like, I didn't notice it, but I noticed it when I watched the video. I'm like, that's wild.
It's so weird. It looks like a vacuum seal bag, like you have like a plastic bag and you take all the air and it goes, and then it goes back to normal. Yeah.
Yes. Like, nobody tells you that. They don't do that on TV. Like, nobody says that. It's amazing.
It's so
and
cool.
So, I'm okay. So we're just sort of going through that, and then at about 8:30, when they were maybe 4 or 5 minutes apart, and it was just a little harder. I was just a little more exhausted because the contraction, it just feels a little more painful. She came over at about 8 o'clock at night, guys. Remember, my water broke at like 6 a.m, and she came over at 8 o'clock at night. Everybody has a different story, Apparently when I was my mom's second kid, I guess after the water broke, I came soon after. It wasn't the case with my kid. I still wasn't dilated when she came. I mean, I was dilated a bit, but not all the way. Almost to the point where she had us fill up a bathtub, and I was going to get in the bath. So while they were filling that up, and while I was going through whatever contractions I was going through, she did another check, and apparently I was enough where I didn't. Oh, she had me lay on the like on the bed, that was squat. She had me squat, and so I went through a few contractions to let gravity help instead of just laying on the bed on my side. So we did that enough times, and she said, "We're good. We don't need the bath unless you want to do the bath." I'm like, no, I like the cozy bedroom. I didn't want to get all wet, I mean, if it was a nice big bath, but I wanted everyone to be a part of it, and there was enough droppage. droppage, you know what I mean? So, so from around 11:30, you know, it's intense now. You look back at it, and I remember thinking, how do people keep going back? How do families have 5, 6, 7 kids? But you somehow forget that. You do. That it's not a problem. Your body becomes this drug machine. You're like, I was so relaxed. I had 0 drugs, 0 painkiller. And I look back at the video, I'm like, what kind of natural morphine did my body fucking squeeze into me that I was so relaxed while those contractions did their thing? Like, what are those chemical endorphins that...
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is oxytocin. That's the biggest hormone that's the MVP of the labor. And it triggers contractions, it triggers lactation. But one of the coolest things about it is that it triggers endorphins that release, that take away pain. And it's, like you said, like, how do people do this when you're in the middle of labor? I've had most of the moms that have attended their births, they're like, I'm never having any kids again. I'm adopting after this. I wanted a family of 7. Now we're 1 and done. And then, you know, a couple weeks postpartum, they're like, of course I'm going to have more kids. What are you talking about? You know?
Totally. Yeah, God, it's a miracle. Women, we're miraculous. So it hit midnight, and the midwife kind of leaned in and, oh, by the way, I don't know if I'm having a girl or a boy. All I know is I'm either having Paris Helena Duff or Paris Andrew Duff. So we had baby Paris, and everyone was very excited to meet baby Paris. And at midnight, the midwife kind of leaned in. She said, well, you can have Paris anytime now because it's officially my birthday too. So it's very sweet. It was the midwife's birthday. And I had been pushing probably from about 11:45 at this point. And then, my husband got to go boil water, which meant he got a crock pot. We had a little crock pot. And we warmed up water in it, and she put a little betadine solution, like it's just a little like antimicrobial sterile, exactly. And so she had just a warm compress, and she just kept it on the area, the perineal area, and so I wound up getting on my left side, and she wanted me, like, now it was to the point where I was open enough where she said, now I need you pushing. And that was such an interesting thing, because you just think soon as you have a sensation, you got to push. But it's kind of not, like you there's nothing there yet. The baby isn't even, like, you're pushing, your vaginal area push doesn't affect when it's up higher, right? So you got to wait till it gets in there, and then the push muscles work. And that was fascinating. And it was so rewarding to know that my push was going to produce something. Look at my hand.
That's great. I love it.
Get it? And so when she said I got to push, and I was on my side, and I had my leg was stretched out against my friend's shoulder, right? And then this is like my vag, and so I've got my friend here, and then my arm is pushing on my husband, and right, I got my team, right? While I still have someone patting my lower back, that pat on the lower back just was beautifully relaxing, distracting. And once you do that push, she would say, then relax. You relax. I mean, I almost would go completely unconscious.
Yes.
Again, 0 drugs. The body gives you all that. And I'd be out, and then all of a sudden, and then she just said, tuck your chin down, and I want you to give 3 solid pushes. So I tuck and and did that 3 times. And that really, I only had about 20 minutes of that. And I remembered the very last one, I just remembered thinking, oh my God, when is this? Like I kept thinking I was pooping. I felt bad that I was letting them down, right? We're all so full of emotion, right? I want to produce a great product for you guys and it's not happening. Mind you, in the big scheme of things, from 9 at night to 12:20 is not that long and but I remembered I had this vision. I'm like, all right, on the next one, I'm just going to push and push until whatever's in me just it's like a football. I just went into like Tom Brady mode, although I wasn't a fan of Tom Brady quite then yet. I don't even know if he was around. But I just saw a football, just push. So on that last one, and when you see the video, it's cool because you see the head and you can hear the sniffles of my friends, trying to, I wanted them to be quiet, but all I heard was, they're crying because they're seeing life come out of my hooch and then go back into my hooch and then come out, and you see the vernix. I'll never forget, because when I see the video, the little bit of the white that was on the head, and then I felt this, I want to say tickle, but if a tickle could be painful tickle.
Yep.
Right? And I'm on my side, and I just was like, I'm just going to hold my breath, and I'm just going to keep pushing, and all of a sudden something kind of tickled in a painfully weird way, and it made me lay on my back. And at that point, her head was all the way out. It was just her head, which I don't know. You can't feel everything, your body is numbing up everything. And then she got her hands in wedged, and then she goes, give another push. And I just pushed, and then she said, reach down and grab your baby. And I'm laying here, and I'm like, what? Where? What? Literally, I say, what, where? And all of a sudden, she just hands me this life. And so she hands me my baby and immediately puts a towel on top of Paris. We stay there for about 15 minutes because she wants the umbilical cord to stop pulsing.
Yes.
And that's where everyone all the tears. I just remembered my bed was, I'm looking up at a team of 15 friends at this point, and they're just, guys, girls, the husbands, the wives, the friends, and just the tears and them getting to witness, because it's not every day you get to see this, and it's pretty freaking beautiful, right?
It's amazing.
And it's amazing. And so finally the midwife just said, you want to see what you have? And so I lifted her up, and I just see the umbilical cord long, and I'm like, wait. And then I realized, and I just said, I go, are you what everyone thought you were? And then the room just said, a girl. Somehow everyone just knew I was having a girl. And so she kept her, she wanted her just latching on, because she wanted her to nurse right away. And that's the other deal. That's the whole sort of natural situation, is get that nursing going, because it gets the placenta out.
Yes.
Because if I had any hitch in mine, the placenta did not come out right away. And that's where she actually, after about 20 minutes, she cleared the room, except for one friend and my mom. And she had to put her hand up in there and just get the placenta out and then check it. And then we laid there until the next day. And the next day I went to the doctor, her pediatrician. And that was strange, going from the house, putting her in the car seat, and driving to the pediatrician to get the checkup. It's pretty hippie chick,
It's incredible, but it's funny because hippie kind of gives it a little bit of a negative connotation. To me, it's so natural. I've attended hospital births, and I had both of my boys at home. So it was a little bit of a shock when you arrive at the hospital, and we've all been to a hospital for some reason or another, to visit someone, for ourselves, whatever.
That's right.
Who feels comfortable walking into a hospital?
I know.
Does anybody? It's
I
so
know.
sterile. Everything is bleached, and you want it to be that way, of course. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But when it comes to something like childbirth, which is such an intimate, event.
Yeah.
You want it, like what you're describing, I get chills listening to your story, tears in my eyes, because your house is filled with love, and love is the thing that produces oxytocin.
Yeah.
You walk into a hospital, you feel fear, you may feel anxiety, you feel sterile, you feel cold. Those are oxytocin killers. They literally just right there.
Yeah.
And so you have to work twice as hard intentionally to get yourself into that loop where you're like, I am comfortable, I know what's happening. And then meanwhile, the doctors are putting like an IV port in your arm, and they're strapping things all around you, and there's beeping, and you hear a gurney, you know, like it's just like.
Yeah, the sounds alone, the people, the screaming, the crying, and then, you could have a great team, but maybe you got that one nurse that says, so have you suffered enough? And that was my thing. And there's a lot of really great birthing centers, and a lot of people wanted me to go to a birthing center, which I totally can. And I could have gone to a birthing center, but if I could recreate the ideal scene, right? Like birthing center was here, hospital was here, if I could recreate that by study, talking to people that have done it, doing my, being a good candidate for it too, right?
For sure.
And my house, I knew for sure I wasn't going to get that one nurse that was going to have a problem with me not wanting to have the drugs, And if then I needed to, I'm in Los Angeles. I could throw a stone and I'm at every fantastic hospital, like with, in a blink of an eye. So it was really well planned, but it was so exactly what I wanted. And the next day, I just wanted to, I wanted to buy cars and homes for all my friends who were there helping. Like they were shaving my armpits, they were shaving my legs. I threw up on one of them, they were such angels, and keeping things light and lovely, and also letting me have my cat on the bed and not making me feel wrong, and playing with my cat while they're rubbing me down and giving me those reassuring smiles. And I wanted to give them everything. And yet the next morning, my house was so full of flower arrangements because they thanked me for letting them be a part of that special, intimate experience that very few people would allow. Not even family, but friends, right? These are friends. They weren't family. Like my husband and my mom were the only family I had, but my friends are my family, and this was something that I really wanted the help with, and to have. And now my daughter has all of those godparents, And she's 30. She's 31 now. She's 31 years old now.
What a beautiful story. I can't get over how perfect it is. And you said, you have your ideal scene. What does your ideal birth look like? And if you have something less, I use the word, if you're looking at it this is my ideal, this is the worst case scenario. If you have anything less than your ideal scene, you didn't fail, okay?
That's right.
It's not a failure.
That's right.
There is no such thing as a failure. I'm sorry. There's just not. There's an experience. You know what I mean? And no matter what happens, you do your best with the knowledge you have. You curate the best possible birth team you can. In a hospital, you get to know your nurses. I had one guest on my podcast. She's like, I brought cookies for my C-section team because I knew I was having a C-section. I brought them cookies because I wanted them to like me when they were cutting me open. And I was like, you know what? I love that. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So you do what you can to create the experience that is the closest thing to the ideal scene that you can picture, right?
Yeah.
And you did that, but you did that just to the ultimate degree. And
oh my gosh.
Of course your friends were grateful for that, because what an experience.
I know.
As a birth doula, I have yet to witness a birth that hasn't left me changed. You know what I mean? It's so empowering. It's so inspiring. It's incredible. Women are ridiculous.
We're ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
And I'll tell you, that next morning, I was on the phone. I was calling all my family in New York. I still had my grandmother. I had my great grandmother. So between my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and me, then there was my daughter. So my daughter became the 5th generation. So it's my daughter, me, my mom, so it was, let's call my daughter, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother. Right, so we had those 5 generations, and so it was that also, and a girl too, because it was all 4 of the women that were alive, and it's a friend of mine, Elena Cardone, her and her husband watched my video, and they were like, all right, Grant was like, I want to do this, and I am going to just say this here because who cares? It's a podcast and it's funny, so I show them, but I made a 45-minute edited video on, VHS. This was like where you have to stop and start each cassette, right? This wasn't digital time. And, the digital, like the video time.
Right.
And so I made a 45-minute edit because my midwife was so in love with this birth. It was just to her, it was super special for her because of the team that was around, right? And I don't know, being an actress obviously makes me comfortable with whatever. So you see my bum. So it's like, none of the dudes that were there. Like I remembered when I took, I actually had an adult diaper on. And the reason I had an adult diaper was because I went to a Halloween party on October 31st. And then my water broke November 2nd. My daughter was born November 3rd, but I still had the diaper because for Halloween I was a baby. I put a diaper on and I had my belly and I had a little t-shirt and I had a pacifier and I did, so my Halloween costume had a big diaper with my belly sticking out. So I still had that diaper, and as my water was dripping from the 9 in the morning to by the time I laid in the bed at 7 o'clock, I just kept that adult diaper on to just sort of absorb the fluid. Mm-hmm. So when the midwife came at like 8 at night, she needed me to take the diaper off. And I'm like, all right, guys, you're going to see my hooch. I haven't shaved for a while because I can't see it down there. So simmer down. I'm Italian. I'm just letting you know. And again, it's like, as an actress, we don't care about that. There's nothing sacred about pubic hair. There's nothing unique or different or special. It's just a body. And I very much have that. I've done a lot of volunteer work, and I've volunteered at natural disasters. Like, I have no consideration on body parts in that way. I'm not embarrassed of my own, and I have no problem with anybody else's. It's very doctorly, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I like to just make the group comfortable and get over it.
It's good to make people laugh too, because that just kind of gets it out of the way, and you're like, all right, we're over it. Good.
Totally. So when I bring my VHS, so the midwife, I made this because she wanted to be able to share it, because on Monday nights she would do an open house, and so it was a little something when people would come and interview her. She'd get to like, look, here's something that, this is pretty much the ideal scene of what you could have, Yeah. So I let another friend of mine, Marisol Nichols, she's an actress, so her and her husband wanted to see that, and I wound up I was the only one with her at the birth. There was her husband and just me, and she's got a bajillion friends and family, and she wound up doing it in a hospital, but I was the one, to just be there through, and also navigating how to talk to nurses, right? Yeah. I had done training as a certified nurse assistant, and so when you can speak a little bit of their language, you get on the same page, because sometimes you can start off on the wrong foot if you're anti-drug, anti-hospital, I would feel offended if you're coming to this hospital that I've worked so hard to become a nurse. Do you know what it takes? And now you are insulting my profession. So I understand that I'm not a nurse, I'm a nurse assistant, right? That's what I trained in. So, but I understand when you respect everything that goes on in a hospital, but it doesn't mean you have to agree to all of it, but you understand it and respect it, you will get the best of those people's services.
Agreed.
Right? So that was, I think, one of the most helpful things that I would bring to friends when I would escort them, whether it was in a hospital and certainly at the home births. Grant and Elena, they watched my 45-minute video, and the thing I was going to say was, about halfway through it, Grant's got his cigar, and he's like, Denice, I ain't calling you Denice Duff anymore. I'm calling you Denice Muff. Why don't you shave that thing? I'm like, dude, I couldn't see it. All right, maybe your wife is going and getting waxed. I didn't spend the money. It was very funny. It was very funny. But they wound up having both of their children at their home in Beverly Hills. They had their dog next to the bed. There were, I think there were 5 of us, and they had a doctor from Cedars-Sinai, and he came to the house, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful, and I was her girl, So it's an honor, and several others, and I don't know, like nothing makes you feel more like a superhero than helping to bring a life healthily into this world.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that, if I may be so bold, you have a certain presence about you of confidence.
Aww.
And that is everything, because the second the doubt enters into the labor room, things go downhill. You know what I mean? Like, what if this? Is this okay? It makes you tense. Fear, like the natural reaction is adrenaline and cortisol, and those things make you're going to fight or flight mode, which is the opposite of what you want for a smooth labor. And so having somebody in the room with you like you, where you're like, it's all good, and you bring a sense of humor, and you bring levity and just confidence, and that is so powerful.
Gosh, yeah. That's like 80%. You're 80% there. If your mind space, your head space is relaxed and excited. You could be drained, you could be nervous, but to overall be not thinking of all the worst things. If you don't have that, you're 80% there.
I couldn't agree more. People are like, birth is a purely physical thing, and I'm like, wrong. Absolutely not. There's a little bit of it that's physical. Obviously, there's a physical aspect. A baby has to come out of your vagina. That's a fact.
Right.
That's about the extent of physicality that there is to it. The rest of it is all in your head. Yeah. And you talk a lot about your birth team, and I am huge on assemble a superhero birth team.
Yeah.
It's more important than I can describe in words. If you have somebody who is like, you owe it to me to let me be at your birth, or I'm going to be there to see it go wrong, or anything weird or off-putting, just don't tell them you're going into labor if it's going to, you know what I mean? It's just, it poisons the necessary mental state that you need to be in order to have a successful birth.
I think you sort of, I mean, hey, you may have someone. I had some gals there that I saw like a really sweet and different side of them. Some of the guys, one of the guys, he was a musician with my husband. They were in a band together, and during the birth, and he was there, and I didn't know that he was like an EMT in like the military. But he's a younger guy. I mean, let's say if I was 28, he was probably like 27, but he served a little service time. And I'm like, oh, no wonder. I felt so comfortable being half naked in front of him. Whereas I would never even go braless in front of Brian. Brian's here, okay. And now here I was, because there was this beingness about him. He was used to this. Yeah. He helped dying men when he was in the service, and I saw this different side of him when it came to, when the rubber meets the road, and we're saving a life here, and we've got this bubble, this team that have a goal to accomplish. You just find these different qualities of your friends that you never knew. And look, you might even have a friend who you love so much, and they may think that this is going to freak them out, but I almost want to urge you to say, look, I still want you to come, be in the other room, because let them graduate. When you're involved in something like that, you actually it's never, if you are squeamish to that, but when you're there, you're no longer squeamish. And to be able to experience and go through something like that, you become a better person. Like literally every person that was in that room that had never experienced anything quite like that, I guarantee whatever squeamishness they may have had with a little blood or with body parts, that handled it for them. And because of that, they can be a better mom, or somebody hurt on the side of the street that there's a little something and they're not freaked out by it, because they really had to endure seeing somebody in a vulnerable state for 6 gosh darn hours, right? That takes a kind of patience, and I'm not their daughter. I'm just their girlfriend, but I all know like how this experience has stayed with them, and many of them were like, I really didn't want to, and I thought I'd freak out and leave, but I got wrapped up in the magic of this, and I'm so glad I stayed. And so I just want to say that it's really something that, when I volunteered in Haiti during the 2010 earthquake, and it was disastrous, and there was so much destruction, and I had to help people who lost their arms and lost their limbs. And I remembered when I came back, I talked to a Haitian girl, and she went, "Oh, I could not go. It would be too emotional. I would not be able to do that." And I'm like, "No," I said, "You know what's too emotional? Sitting at home and watching it on the TV. That's emotional when you're not doing anything about it. But when you're there and you're helping and contributing to a beautiful cause, you're a superwoman. You don't get wrapped up in your emotion because you're on a mission."
And you have to act, right? Like,
right.
You don't have time to think. Back to similarly in labor, there's no time to think. You don't dwell on what happened, is this, what,
No.
all of those thoughts in your head that you don't have time for them. You just, the next thing we need to do is counter pressure on this woman's back because she's demanding it.
That's right.
She needs a cold, towel on her head. Bring it on over. You know what I mean? Like, you just get into action and you start, like you said, like you contribute to this whole.
They all contributed to it. It was so good. Or the phone is ringing, or someone's at the door, or we need to change the sheet, or there were so many little things. Yeah, they all had something to do, and they were all so happy that they didn't chicken out.
Yeah. The funny thing is, so that you mentioned, like you're naked in front of all these people. So I'm a fairly modest person. Like I'm not like just showing my body off or whatever. And so it was very important to me. I was pregnant. I remember I was like, I need to find a really like cute but like comfortable bra for when I'm in labor. And I remember I had this conversation with like my midwife, and she's like, "Ha ha ha, okay, you're weird, whatever." And I'm like, "No, this is really important to me. Like, I need to find the right bra and the underwear." Like, and she's like, "Underwear in labor? Okay." And I had no idea, right? This is my first kid, right? And I'm like, my dad's gonna be there. Like, I can't be just running around naked in front of my dad, And like you and your birth assistant, like I know you guys, but like, do I know you guys? And so I'm in labor, and I have my bra, and I have a couple pictures of me with my like cute little bathrobe, early labor. And then there just comes a point in labor where any sexuality about your body is just so far gone. It went out the window, down the road, into another state. Your body is not sexual.
No.
Your boobs, your vagina, they are not a sexual thing anymore. They are a life-making miracle, right?
That's right.
And
everyone in the room feels that. Like, not only do you feel that, but everybody. There's nothing. No one's getting turned on about anything.
It's not weird. And
No,
I'm like,
it's not.
You have to pee every now and then while you're in labor.
Yes, you have
the
to
body's
pee.
still doing things. And so I'm over there like waddling back from like my birth pool to the toilet, from the toilet to the birth pool. And at one point I was like covering myself up with a towel every time. And at one point I was like, F this, I don't care.
Totally.
Like, if my dad sees me naked, it wasn't even a thought in my world.
Yeah.
My husband was like, "You want your towel?" I'm like, I don't even know words. I was like,
That's right. There's no word.
You just like stop speaking English at
You
some
do.
point.
It's
you
true.
go into this whole different world.
Animal. It's like when animals have birth. It's just.
It's feral.
Yeah.
It's guttural. It's
It is.
like so pure, and it is a force of nature, and it is unbelievable. And until you experience it, like, I could say these words, and there's a pregnant mom out there that's like, yeah, but I'm gonna stay covered up. Okay. You know, it's like, it's just this you enter this universe that is so unlike anything else.
Yeah.
And you emerge a brand new person with this perfect little baby, and it's
Totally.
like the best. It's just the best.
It is. It is.
So amazing.
Right. I mean, that was, the next day, talking. I couldn't go to sleep. It went from I can only sleep and push and sleep and push. And then when that's done, then you're like, okay, I feel like I was like, okay, who gave me cocaine? All right, grandma. And then she gave it, and then she handed it to me, and I thought like, oh, is it a boy or a girl? And it was the umbilical cord, but it looked like a really long penis. And then, okay, goodbye. And then, oh, hey, Uncle Peter. So I was pushing. And then I was like a football. It was like, like a total, like the Raiders were going to push that, and it's going to hit, have a touchdown. And I mean, I was on speed, and it was just, while she's in my arms, I had no idea that our body is such a drug producing for whatever you need, it's got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this birth scenario.
It's incredible. It is like, obviously I could talk about it for hours. I started a podcast to talk about it for hours because it is just endlessly incredible, and it never ceases to amaze me. And you're sharing your birth story, and I've heard, I don't know how many countless birth stories, and I'm still moved. I get tears in my eyes and chills down my spine. It's like so unbelievably incredible,
Oh, and I did do some preparations. My midwife had me to just get the vaginal opening, right? Because if you're going to do this all on your own, she said get like some oil and just spend whatever, a minute or two the last couple weeks stretching the opening. I mean, it's uncomfortable and weird. I don't know how much of it I did. I did have a little tear. She did do, and she was able to do a little stitch at the home birth. Like, this midwife was able to do that. I did have a little tear. Never felt it. It wasn't something that like, oh, for weeks I couldn't sit. No, nothing. And but she had me just stretch that area whenever I could. Then she also had me loofah my breasts to get the nipples used to being nursed.
Interesting.
So I just would like do the loofah because there is a bit of a sting, and so I remember those two preparatory things, and it also kind of helps stimulate the uterus, and
Absolutely.
yes. And then we did take the placenta once it came out. I did. I put it in a Tupperware and I put it in the freezer. I didn't know what I was going to do with it for like a year. And on my daughter's 1-year birthday, that morning I kind of thought it out semi. And then I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but I just feel like burying it in the backyard. She was born here. We dug a hole and we like dumped it back because my daughter was, no, it wasn't my daughter, it was my husband. He couldn't even look. And I just remembered like the dump into the dirt and then covering it. And then the tree that was around it,
Oh.
I don't know what else is helpful, but
This has been amazing. I mean, we're coming
Good.
up on an hour. This was amazing. Your birth story is incredible. I know that a mom out there is listening and is inspired and heartened at the possibilities, and even for somebody planning a hospital birth, like, I hope that there's some
Yes.
takeaway here that, it's a beautiful thing. It's not scary. Birth is not something to be feared,
Yeah.
It's something to be in awe of, and
Yeah.
it's an experience. It's not like just a regular old Thursday afternoon. It is a unique, timeless, incredible, powerful thing, and it's transformative, and you become, at the end of it, you become a mother, and
Yeah.
it's just
And
so amazing.
the more you put into something, the more joy you get from it, right? It's with anything, right? The more you contribute your creation, your cause, your anything. Even when you flow money to something, right? If you donate a lot to an organization, you kind of like that organization. You take pride in it, right? When you exercise and eat good, you kind of, you respect yourself a bit more, right? And I was at the beach this weekend morning, and I saw a bunch of kids setting up a giant heart that's in the middle of it. It said, "Will you marry me?" And it was about 10 feet tall. And I went over, and they're like, he said, "Oh, my brother, we're setting this up for him. He's getting married." And I'm like, oh my gosh, or he's going to propose. And I'm like, he's starting the marriage off with such a creation. That says a lot for what else he will do, right? What do they say? How you do something is how you do everything. Yeah. And again, this isn't to be like anti-hospital, but it is to be pro you creating your ideal scene, right? And you understanding that a baby, it's going to naturally do its thing, right? Unless there's some, physical problem, the baby's going to do its thing, and your job is to kind of referee it through, and it's unforgettable. And all I know is my kid finds it very special that every Monday her video got to be shown as an open house. She's like, "Yep, Mom, I was the open house every Monday in Santa Monica."
That's hilarious. Denice, this has been so wonderful. I am so happy we did this. This is so fantastic. No. We're coming up on an hour. Before we end off, you want to, close with any final thoughts? Tell people where they can find you.
Yes, I just wrote a book. It became a bestseller on Amazon. It was like for a month and a half. It's called Naturally Skinny My Ass. And it's my tips of how, it's not a bunch of, it's very easy read. It's got food, it's got different chapters on how I've managed to stay the same size from 17 to 60. And it's not, maybe I work out 3 times a month. So it isn't about, you gotta hit the gym and you can't ever eat sugar and you've got, there's no you gotta nothing. There's my own little ways of thinking about why we deserve to make healthier choices, right? And anyway, it's really helped women. I'm a big fan of when 20 and 30-year-olds read this, because you really get to create some really sane, usable habits that you can have for the rest of your life, because we all want to be great grandmothers of our beautiful kids that we're bringing into this world. And these are tips that are cheap, free. I think I have a thing of like, hey, it's better to have radishes that are not organic from the dollar store than to have Doritos from the gas station, So I have all sorts of little hacks on being healthy, naturally skinny my ass. But I wanted to offer, because I know you've been a lovely customer of my skincare, I wanted to offer your viewers a 15% off with your own special code.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we said Sensible Mama 15, get you 15% off. I'll put a link in the description for your book on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for In Your Face skincare. It is, just to put a little personal plug in, I have dealt with eczema my entire life, and so I am very picky when it comes to lotions and things like that. I'm very sensitive to things with all sorts of artificial fragrances and colors and all sorts of junk that nowadays seems to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And my mom was using your cream, and I stole some from her. Don't tell her. Actually, that's fine. She said I could tell you. She was one of your first customers when you were first getting started on this, and I've been stealing some from her. So she finally got me my own, and now I'm addicted. I can't stop, and it's fantastic. It's very high quality. It's not your
No, I go the
drugstore lotion.
It's the long route, that the infusions that we make, and we have something called a creamy body oil, which so many pregnant women have been swearing by. It's imported Sicilian olive oil with calendula, and it's beautiful for your whole body. All of my products, we have so many women who are pregnant that use them because there's no retinols, there's no sketchy hormonal disruptors in it. And but I tell women when they say, is it, pregnancy safe? And I said, everything that I've put on my body and put in my body, except for maybe raw fish, is pregnancy safe. I don't, if I wouldn't put it in I treat myself like I'm always carrying a life form, because that life form is me, right? So it for me, I respect my body as much as I do another body that's in my body.
Yeah.
It's getting a little meta. Right? So, yeah, and I actually, that's one of the things that I go over there too, of just like if you treat your body with that same respect that you would when you're pregnant, oh my gosh, just imagine how lovely and healthy you're going to be.
It's a great attitude. We take such good care of ourselves when we're pregnant, and then suddenly we become like second-class citizens in our own mind, and we're like, everything good for the baby, and I'll just eat, Tostitos for lunch all the time.
Yeah. So it's just another little mind shift of, really being in this for the long haul. We don't need six-pack abs. We don't need, model, but just health, the ability to be able to squat down and play with your great grandbabies. Like, that's where I'm going with this,
I love it. You're amazing. You've been such a lovely guest. This has been such a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for caring about this subject and for everything you're doing.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you in the next episode. Until then, have a good one.